The Zarlum Chronicles, Episode 1, Part 2. They all immediately jumped to it, apart from Magpie, who didn't really care. Raven grabbed the microphone.
Hello? Do you read me? Hello? Claudia? Ivy, for fuck's sake, do you read me? Hello?
They heard a slightly muffled voice coming through the static. Occasionally, the static completely took over, cutting them off so they kept missing words.
Yes, we can hear you, loud and clear on our end. Can you hear us?
Raven looked excited.
Yes, it's not entirely clear, but it's good enough.
Yeah, sorry. Tower is a little damaged. We had to fix it, so that's why it's taken long to get in contact.
Amoura asked.
Ivy, are you in a safe place? Yeah, we are. For now. You need to get here, quickly. The look of it. Every government official who are still alive is coming here. Soon, it will be pure, complete mayhem. I think everyone in the world is coming here.
Raven and Amoura looked at each other. Then Raven asked,
How long do we have before it's too late?
A month, maybe 2. Do you think you can get here by then?
Raven looked at Amoura, who looked a little worried, then hesitantly nodded, not sure if her nod was actually true. Raven pulled the microphone closer to her.
Yes, we may be able to get there in time, but we will need to get supplies for such a journey. Where exactly are you?
We're in China. I'm sending you map details. When you arrive, all you have to do is go to the iced mountains, and you'll see them, but you'll need to be seriously careful. The world is unkind.
Raven paused for a moment, then asked,
Did you find our mother?
Yes, we traveled east, trying to keep out the dark zones, but she is with us.
Raven sighed from relief, sitting back, then asked,
How is Claudia holding up?
She's doing a little better, but getting any medical supplies is difficult, considering no one is producing them now.
But she is alive.
Yes, but she is sleeping a lot. She hadn't got the 50% strain, but it's getting worse. She can't seem to throw it off. But hey, don't worry about us. Worry about yourself, and try to make it over here. Everyone on the planet is coming here.
Okay, then we can get to you. It will take a while, but we'll set off in the morning.
All right. See you soon. And please, take care of yourself. It's a dangerous world.
Yeah, we can take care of ourselves. Be careful. Ending transmission. Be careful out there, sis.
Raven pressed the red button again, which cut the transmission, so all they heard was static again. Raven turned to the rest of the room.
We have a mission now. We have to go to China.
Amoura and surprisingly even Magpie looked worried at the idea. A machine in the corner made a sound. Amoura went over to it, pulling out a piece of paper.
Okay, so now we have a map and coordinates. It's really far away.
Raven went over to a window, watching the snow dance around, getting thicker and thicker.
We will have to set off in the morning. It's beginning to snow, and knowing this area, it will turn into a blizzard in a few hours. We've had 3 this week alone.
Amoura looked a little worried.
According to this map, we are going to be going over the most dangerous areas in the world, with different habitats and creatures none of us have ever seen before. This isn't going to be easy.
Raven nodded.
Yeah. Do you honestly believe that we can make it there?
Even if we can't, we've got to try. We can't just stay in this cabin for the rest of our lives. We owe it to everyone who has helped us in the past to try.
Raven nodded.
Yeah, Estella really does live on in all of us.
Amoura nodded.
Yeah, and a few other people. Like my parents. We owe it to your parents to try and get there.
Raven went over to her.
When we get there, our family will merge, and my mother will be yours.
Amoura sighed, smiling.
It'll be nice to have a mother again.
Amoura then thought of a question.
Why China? I know people used to say China was a place set up before the fall, but what's actually there?
Magpie then spoke up.
It's a relief site. They have arks or ships. Before the fall, the unseen rulers of the world created sky cities, ready to be launched at the end of days, and set up arks to take people up there. It was just a rumor, but I suppose it was true. But why do you guys want to go there?
Amoura answered.
Because my whole life I've done nothing but survive. And this place we're going to isn't just set up for people to survive. It's set up for people to live. We could live there!
Well then, I hope you're prepared for the price it will cost to get there, because it won't be easy.
Raven yawned, then stood up. She pushed her chair in, then turned the radio off.
At least we now know that they're alive and together. That's something, at least.
Amoura nodded.
Yeah, that's good. And now they're on the move again. Are you worried about Claudia?
Yeah, I'm fairly worried. I'm always worried about Claudia. Most of the people who are sick these days don't live.
Magpie began to wash her hands, saying,
I wouldn't worry about that, Raven. The world doesn't have many medical supplies left after 30 years of hell. But where they're going, and where we're going, they will have the medical supplies she will need to survive, if she doesn't have the 50% strain. She'll be fine. Don't worry, Raven. Claudia will be fine.
Raven then looked worried.
That's if they even let her in, being that she's sick.
I don't think her being sick will be a problem, considering how we're getting in to begin with.
Amoura nodded.
Yeah, this trip is all right for you, Magpie. It's no problem because you don't have that little concern of dying. Raven and I do. Do you believe we can make it there?
Well, if we're careful and stay out of the way of basically everything, then yes, we will make it there just fine. If not, then no. There isn't a single fucking chance in hell, and you guys will die.
Thanks for the confidence boost.
I'm a realist. You should know that by now. I'm not going to lie and give you false confidence, because confidence is the food of a wise man, but the liquor of the fool.
Right. Well, we better be wise people.
You survived almost 27 years on your own. You're probably the smartest among us, just like your mothers, and you'll need that intelligence.
Thanks, Magpie.
Amoura went over to Magpie. She looked at the rabbit.
So, is it done yet?
Almost, but your veg is done.
Magpie pulled the handle up, lifting it over to the sink draining the water. Magpie opened a cupboard, removing 2 plates and serving up the veg still steaming. Amoura took the rabbit off the grill with some tongs and started removing the meat. The smell was filling her nose, making her more hungry than she had ever been in her life.
How much do you want, Raven?
Raven, who was taking out some knives and forks, replied,
About half will do. Then you can have the other half. Seems fair?
Thanks. Yeah, that works.
Raven giggled as she went to the table.
I just want to say your system of knives and forks is insane. But I kind of love it.
Why?
Because normal people put knives and forks just in the drawer. But you get napkins and put the knives and forks in the napkins, wrapped up. And they each have their own area.
Yeah, I learned that from my mom. It's just easier. You don't have to pick up 2 things, and then you can clean any spillage. It also makes us look more classy.
Yes. When the world ends, class is the first thing I think of as well. We need so much more class.
Amoura laughed. Magpie sat down on a chair, looking bored.
And as you know, I have no need of eating. Not anymore.
Amoura looked confused as Raven placed down 2 cups of juice she had just made.
Just because you can't die doesn't mean you can't eat.
Well, I can. But food tastes like nothing anymore. Just ash and dust in my mouth. Just another part to the curse, I guess. And plus, if I eat, that means less food for you.
Right. Makes sense. So it tastes like ash and dust.
Magpie looked at the ceiling, nodding.
Yep, you should be used to that by now.
They sat down and started eating.
Jesus, after 2 years of 1,000-year-old pineapples? Rabbit tastes so fucking good.
Amoura nodded.
Yeah, that's true. However, now it will be back to pineapples. Wildlife is being affected by the virus just like any other creature. It's harder to see them, let alone get them. It's really just madness. At first, wildlife was expanding. Now it's dying just as fast as people.
Raven nodded. It could just be because it's winter. Amoura shook her head.
When it was summer, I wasn't seeing anything either.
Amoura turned to Magpie.
Now, Magpie, in case you weren't listening, we're going to Dirham tomorrow to retrieve some supplies and fueling up the Jeep, then setting off to China. We have to get supplies first. I know how much you hate the city, but we don't really have much of a choice in the city. Just think of it as our last trip to the city. I mean, I personally want to see it one more time before we leave it forever.
Magpie replied.
By it, I assume we're not talking about the city. We're talking about something specific in the city, right?
Amoura nodded. Yeah. Magpie agreed.
All right. The city is the most dangerous spot around here. But I understand you wanting to see it one more time. You were meant to grow up there, after all.
Amoura looked down slightly.
Well, I did grow up there. Maybe not in the way the world intended. Definitely not in the way my parents intended, but hey, we work with how the world is, not how we want it to be. Right?
Magpie nodded.
Right. That's always the way it will be.
Amoura took another bite of her food.
Also, I know the city is the most dangerous place, but what choice do we have? We need the supplies for the journey. If not, we will not survive.
Magpie nodded.
Okay, fine. But we seriously need to be careful, because this isn't just a little field trip of memories. This is survival, and we need to take it seriously.
Yes, of course we will. We're not completely stupid.
You could have fooled me.
Thanks.
Raven licked her lips, asking, "Is there anything dangerous outside that you saw, Amoura?" She nodded, swallowing.
Well, it might have just been my imagination, but on the way to the river, I found some prints in the snow. Maybe indicating spiders. Or that was what it looked like to me anyway.
Raven looked worried. And of course, because it's today, they're so much bigger than the average. Magpie shook her head.
The spiders were bigger before the days of today. They attacked the city of Dirham once. It was a big thing.
Amoura smiled.
And I bet we all know what happened to them. What happened to everything in that city.
Magpie nodded, smiling for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I had a good view from my cave. Them climbing the buildings. And then a massive one turned up. They were fighting it with helicopters, and I remember thinking, they are so fucked. But no, they weren't. As always, they saved the day.
Amoura nodded.
Yeah, I know the stories. Estella told me every one of them before I went to sleep.
Well, of course she did. She loved to brag. It was like one of her favorite things to do.
Amoura smiled.
Well, I think she deserved a little bragging rights.
While they were talking, Raven went over to the window. By the way, I heard something hit the wall earlier. Did you see what it was? Amoura replied.
No, but there were 3 spikes covered in blood, so something definitely hit it.
Magpie looked confused.
Wait, something hit it, but it's not there. It must have been pretty bloody strong to pull itself out.
Raven nodded.
Yeah, we should probably go and check just in case. You know, I don't like spiders. Magpie shook her head.
Whatever that thing was, it weren't a bloody spider. They're not strong enough to do that.
Amoura joined Raven's side.
All right, we'll finish our food, then we'll check. And after we're sure, we will go to bed. We need to be up early tomorrow.
Magpie did a calculation in her head.
I think the longest we can be in the city is about 6 to 7 hours. When it starts getting dark, we immediately drive back. No arguments.
Amoura nodded.
Yeah, I used to live in the city for years, in one of the buildings. Nights are not fun in the city.
It's not fun in the daylight, but at least you can see the things that are trying to kill you. What a bonus that really is.
Amoura nodded, eating some food, then smiled.
You know, for being someone who can't die, you certainly think about it a lot.
Magpie nodded.
Well, most people die once. I die again and again and again.
Raven looked at her. Do you ever feel it? Magpie frowned.
Feel what?
Dying. Like the pain. Do you ever feel the pain of dying? Magpie considered her for a moment, then nodded.
Yes. I feel the pain every single time.
When they were finished with dinner, they left their plates on the table, planning on cleaning them after they had come back from looking from the watchtower. Amoura used a napkin to wipe her lips, then put it down neatly on her plate. She stood up and started washing her hands. Raven stood up with her, and they both went to the corner where the front door was. Amoura and Raven both put on their winter coats and boots, preparing to go outside. They also put on goggles and scarves up to their faces to protect from the cold and from the virus. While they did that, Magpie looked out the window.
You guys realize it's snowing pretty hard, and it's getting dark. If I were you, I would be careful. Also, it's going to be difficult to see anything, and even if you do, Amoura, you will be able to do fuck all.
Amoura looked over to her.
Why won't I be able to do anything?
Magpie looked at her expectantly.
Do I really need to respond to that?
Yeah, you do!
Magpie sighed.
Your weapon is a fucking bow and arrow. You get one gust of wind, and that arrow is off target by about 8 miles. And it's dark, so you ain't gonna hit anything. Which is why we're going to bring guns,
said Raven, picking up her gun from the counter, checking the magazine to make sure it was fully loaded. Magpie shook her head.
You shoot those guns, more spiders will come, and we all know how much you love those.
Well, what would you recommend?
Guide it over to the spikes. Spiders are dumb animals.
What if it's people?
Well, people aren't that smart either. Just don't stay out there for too long.
Amoura looked confused.
Are you not coming with us?
No, I'm staying in here.
Amoura nodded.
Okay, have it your way. We'll be careful, because when are we not careful? We'll only stay out there for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that seems like there is enough time for you fuckers to get killed.
We're not going to get killed.
I'll believe that when I see it,
said Magpie, going over to the table, sitting down. They opened the door. They immediately felt a huge gust of powerful icy wind smacking them in the face like cold punching gloves. They pushed their way outside, hearing the wind beating on everything around them, rattling the doors and the barrels. Amoura and Raven were only able to know where the watchtower was because of the creaking, so began to walk towards it, hearing the snow crunching under their feet. Amoura and Raven went up the stairs, looking out for any sign of the creature, or just anything in general. Raven was terrified of seeing the spider, because they knew how big they could get, and if it was so big that the footsteps could be seen in the snow, how big was the rest of it?
I can't see anything out there! But to be fair, if there were anything out there, I doubt we would be able to see it!
Shouted Amoura over the strong wind.
I can't see anything further than 3 feet forward. Spiders don't really like weather like this. It would have to be really determined,
yelled Raven, grasping at her coat, trying to stand still. However, it was just impossible because she was being blown from side to side by the wind. They had to fight the wind to get back inside. Raven and Amoura both had to push the door to eventually slam it shut. When it was closed, they locked it with 3 chains and a metal pole across the door. Magpie then helped them lift a large, heavy wooden pole over the door for overprotection. Amoura and Raven took their coats, hanging them up to dry because they were still covered in snow. They then removed their boots. Amoura said,
Well, we didn't see anything. But to be fair, the snow was coming down really hard, so seeing anything was difficult.
Magpie nodded.
Yeah, which is actually good, because that means the spiders won't be coming out. They really hate the snow. The crazy people would need to be really insane to be out there in the cold. And if they do, for some reason, decide to attack, they'll be dead in 20 minutes, so we'll be fine.
Raven stood up. We'll check the defenses in the morning. Make sure nothing happened in the night.
Amoura sat down.
I'm not scared of the spiders. They've attacked me before and the spikes got them. I'm more worried about whatever the thing was that got stuck in our spikes and somehow managed to get out.
Magpie nodded.
Yeah, I've never seen anything have the strength to pull itself out of a trap like that. I think we're lucky it left, and I really hope for the best it won't come back.
Raven looked worried. Do you think it was one of the creatures? Magpie thought for a moment.
I really don't think so. When I was out exploring the planet, I saw hundreds of those things. And people would attack them with spears, guns. The only thing I saw work was a shotgun, and it took a few shots. I think if one of them did try to get in the base, the spikes wouldn't even penetrate the skin at all. Also, they seem to be using echolocation.
Amoura nodded.
Didn't you also say the creatures have black blood?
Magpie thought for a second.
Yeah, they do. Well, blackish blood. It was sort of black, almost dark blue or purple.
Yeah, the point is, it was red. So it wasn't one of the creatures.
Just thank God it ran off. If you had run into it, it would have killed you.
Amoura nodded, agreeing.
I was going to say we could follow the trail of blood tomorrow to see what it was. However, it'll be gone by now. The snow would have covered it.
Magpie nodded.
Yeah, also, you really want to fucking find that thing out there? No. Just be glad it went away and hope for the best. It doesn't come back.
I am glad. And I hope it won't come back.
Raven looked relieved.
Don't worry. By tomorrow night, if it comes back or not, it won't matter. We'll be gone.
Good point. We are just really lucky that it didn't get out. The spikes then start destroying the base.
They grabbed their knives and forks, placing them in the sink with boiling hot water, cleaning them. Amoura did her inspection to make sure they were 100% clean, because she felt like she had to check. Then they placed them on a drying board to dry in the night.
Amoura went over to a set of drawers. She opened one, pulling out a pair of thin white gloves. She went to a corner, opening a door, hearing the clucks of her chickens. Amoura grabbed a black bucket and began to feed her 5 chickens with just some seeds. She looked around, wondering where the 6th chicken was, but didn't really think about it.
Hey, stop fighting each other! Come on, let each other eat! You're all going to get some!
When they had all eaten, she placed the bucket down and went to the areas the chickens slept and found the 6th chicken. It was laying on the ground, clearly dead, and it had clearly coughed up a large amount of blood before it died. Amoura bent down carefully, scooping up the poor bird, allowing its head to droop down, pointing towards the ground. She checked the skin under the feathers and discovered, of course, the chicken had died from Red River, which was a very bad sign they couldn't eat it because they would contract the virus. Amoura grabbed the chicken by the neck, opening the window, and throwing it out the window into the harsh weather, where it would be buried by the snow like so many creatures before it. She then closed the window before any more snow could come in and any chicken could escape. Amoura was worried about this fact. For the first 30 years of the virus being free on the world, nature was doing extremely well with no people to cut down trees and control the growth of every single life form on the planet. It was free to do whatever it pleased. Trees were beginning to take over the world, and the animals were multiplying faster than they had ever multiplied before. However, it appeared that the animals and trees, like everything else, had its time and were slowly being decimated. It seemed the virus had got bored with people and decided to switch to everything evolving to get worse and worse. Birds and reptiles would be the first to go completely extinct because their eggs didn't have strong enough shells for the young to stay alive. Amoura had experienced this when she tried to grab bird eggs, however, she couldn't even pick them up because the shells would just crack from the smallest touch. Mammals were also dying because the mothers of the mammals were giving so much strength to give birth, along with the virus they were dying. Their children were left alone with no mother and no food, so they were dying off quickly, and that wasn't even taking into consideration that 70% of births were stillborn. Amoura thought that when all the people were dead, nature would take over, but she was being proved wrong. Animals started getting infected by the virus, and even worse, Amoura began to notice that with every summer, there were fewer and fewer leaves on the trees, and they were a lot easier to cut down and were a lot smaller. Soon, there would be nothing else left on the planet at all, and when that happened, there would only be the virus left, and that would result in the virus just destroying itself, leaving an empty and totally silent world that terrified Amoura, because there was nothing she could do. Amoura gathered the chicken eggs. She went back into the house, putting them into storage drawers for the next morning when she would make breakfast. She sighed, a little frustrated.
One of the chickens was dead. Again. You have no idea how hard those things are to catch.
Raven nodded, looking worried.
Yeah, it seems everything is dying now. You know, Handel's told me the other day that if the rate of death continues on Zarlum for animals, all of them will be gone in less than 30 years. Which doesn't seem like a big number, but time is running out. For trees, it's about 40 years. Also, according to her, if we don't get to the safe zone, we have about 5 months left to live. Well, Magpie doesn't, but we do.
The handles table in the corner said, "Yes, I have looked at the effects of the virus. It seems the more people get it, the more it evolves and the stronger it gets. Which is why it didn't infect animals or trees at first, because it hadn't evolved. But now it's taking them over. If my calculations are correct, then when the trees and animals are dead, even the bacteria will disappear, and the world will be completely empty." Amoura quickly looked up, shouting, "Shut up!" She paused, then put her hands on the desk, putting her head down.
Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It's just... Why does the world have to be... this?
Raven shook her head.
It's okay. We understand.
Magpie looked at her.
Yeah, it didn't used to be. The world used to be a better place, and it was only getting better.
Amoura sighed.
Yeah. Then that asshole put the virus on the world.
Magpie paused.
Well, there was a lot more to it than just her. In fact, it wasn't even her idea. It was people who were much higher than her. And those fuckers are still... alive. I tried. I really did try.
Magpie stood up, slamming her hand on the table, walking over the beds on a higher level of the house. Amoura and Raven looked at each other, knowing exactly who it was. However, they refused to speak about them because it was an extremely touchy subject for Magpie, causing her a huge amount of pain and anger because she really did try and failed to stop them. Raven then got ready to do her job. She put on a pair of thick gray gardening gloves and threw on a white apron so she didn't get dirty. She tried twice to tie it up, but it kept untying, which frustrated her. She was excellent at many things, but tying knots was one of the things she just couldn't get her head around, especially when she couldn't see the knot. Magpie went down from the bed. She saw Raven was struggling, so got up and helped her tie it at the back so it wouldn't come undone.
Does that hurt? If so, I can do it a little more loose. No, it's fine, thank you. I must have looked like an idiot.
Magpie shrugged.
Everyone looks like an idiot to me.
Amoura shook her head, looking through the food storage, seeing if anything was gone off or going off.
You act like you're really smart because you've lived for thousands of years.
Yeah, well, I had to do something in those years. After the first 1,000 years, I would imagine it was pretty boring.
Yeah, but everything you learn will be forgotten in 100 years.
Magpie nodded, sitting down, looking bored like usual.
That's why life is completely pointless. Everything I do doesn't matter because I forget about it.
She pointed at Handles.
She says that the world will soon die and everyone will be gone. Well, that's fucking true, is it? Because I will still be here. I will always be here, and it never ends.
Amoura paused.
I'm sorry. I didn't think...
That's all right. Life is too long to hold a grudge. You know, immortality is a curse. It's not like living forever. That's nowhere near what it feels like. Immortality is watching everyone else die. Everything will become dust, and I will be there to see all of it. A good death is what everyone wants. Well, how can I have that when I don't have any death?
Magpie continued talking as Raven left, so didn't hear her speaking, which she said a lot about how much she hated her life, but could do nothing about it, except rant on and on about it endlessly. Raven went over to a room. The room was opposite the chickens. She grabbed a dark green watering can from a hook. Raven went over to a metal sink, beginning to fill it with water, applying a rose, spinning it into place, making sure it wouldn't come off. She went back over to the door, grabbing a trowel off another hook. She pushed open a creaky door into a green house, protected from the elements from a green tarp, which she could hear blowing about from the wind. Luckily, because the tarp was blowing around snow wasn't getting on it, Raven was always worried too much weight would build up on top from the snow and break the glass roof. The room was bright from the many lights around and very hot. The room was full of crops in neat lines. Raven closed the door to not allow any of the heat to escape. She set the watering can on an old desk, hearing the sloshing of the water hitting the inside. Raven grabbed a dirty white pillow, throwing it down on the ground between her crops. She bent down, putting her knees on the pillow, holding her hair back. She began watching the plants, looking at their condition and growth rate from her previous time checking. Raven plunged her hand into the soil, feeling around for the condition. After a few moments, she pulled up a large handful of dirt, looking at the minerals closely rolling around her fingers. Raven had done it enough times to know what she was looking for and what the dirt should feel like. She put a little piece on her finger, moving it to her mouth, tasting it, rolling it around her mouth, then spat it out, wiping her mouth. She threw the rest back on the ground, shaking her hands clean, satisfied with the quality of the dirt and happy she wouldn't have to work on it. Raven stood back up. She grabbed the pillow, taking it back to the table. Raven was able to tell the soil was in good condition just from the look, and more importantly, the taste. She was weird like that. Raven had been grown up constantly getting prepared for the end of days. The people who grew her up hoped they could stop the end of the world. However, it clearly didn't work. So thank God she was prepared because she would be dead otherwise. She grabbed the handles of the old bucket, lifting it over to a patch of plants, taking the pillow with her. She threw the pillow down again, pulling the trowel from her back pocket, and started to dig up the plants, making sure they stayed alive, so they could be replanted, placing them in a pile next to her. Raven was digging up potatoes. The larger ones would be eaten, and the smaller ones would be replanted with the plants. She divided them, then replanted. She stood up, brushing her knees, grabbing the bucket. She looked around, seeing nothing else needed to be harvested. But that didn't matter. The potatoes were enough. Raven was happy with the amount she had got that was until she looked in the bucket and noticed a problem which had been going on for a long time. But it was getting worse every time she harvested. Raven placed the bucket on the table, sighing out of pure frustration. She then grabbed the heavy watering can and watered the plants. She went out, closing the door behind her, placing the watering can and trowel on hooks to be used again on her next harvest. Raven took the bucket to Amoura.
Remember that concern we've been dealing with for the past few weeks? It's getting worse. Come over here and have a look.
Amoura went over to the bucket. They poured them out onto a tray. They all looked worried at the sight. Raven picked up one of the potatoes, explaining,
Most of these potatoes are moldy and are horrible. And it's not because of the soil. It's not because of the way they were grown. It's almost like the virus is going through the roots and has infected our potatoes. And you know what that means? We can't eat them. Magpie looked a little worried, going over and examining the potatoes with them.
Does that mean you can't eat the normal potatoes as well? Wouldn't they be infected as well?
Raven shook her head. No, the others are fine. We've been eating the others and haven't had any effects. Magpie picked one up, admiring it closely.
How do you know the potatoes are bad? How do you tell the good ones from the bad ones?
Raven took the potato from Magpie, saying, That is a good one. Raven picked up another, then pushed her thumb through it, splitting it apart, causing a strange green liquid to pour out of it, which was strangely bubbling, like it was hot and steam was coming out of it. They all stepped away because of the horrible smell emitting from the potatoes. Raven threw it back into the bucket, which was now empty, then quickly started washing her hands, saying, Last week it was half of them. I imagine this time it's more of them.
Amoura looked a little concerned.
How many potatoes did you get?
127. Amoura nodded.
Could you please count all of them and throw away the bad ones? Then tell us how many you have?
Raven nodded. Sure.
She started checking all the potatoes. Luckily, it was super easy to tell. However, they were all worried that one day the virus would be so good and so evolved, there would be no way to tell good food from bad food. And when that day comes, it'll be the end of all of them, and there is nothing they can do to stop it. About 15 minutes later, she was finished, a little worried. She took the bucket of bad potatoes, putting them into a larger container, putting a secure lid on top to stop any form of contamination. Then turned to the others, wiping her forehead in worry.
Okay, so we started with 127 potatoes. And with getting rid of all the moldy ones, left us with 36. Amoura looked worried.
36. Fuck me.
Raven nodded, washing her hands again.
Yeah, 36. Not good, is it?
Amoura sighed.
No, it's bad. That's extremely, very not good.
Amoura then had an idea.
What about the potatoes in storage?
Raven went over to the drawer cabinet. It had 4 levels with 20 drawers in each level going upwards, holding different veg and other stuff like eggs and meat, all kept cold and stored. Raven pulled out a few drawers holding the potatoes, putting them down on the table. Amoura looked in the drawer, saying,
How many have rotted away?
Raven started counting them.
Yeah, it's like Red River is causing them to rot away faster. I'll check these and split them from the good ones to the bad ones and tell you how many we have, because this could be a larger problem.
Amoura sat down.
This damn virus, I swear. It's taking away so many things faster than expected.
Raven started sorting them. She eventually got through them, looking extremely worried.
Okay. Boy, that's not good. I added all the potatoes we had together, including the good and bad ones I just got. And altogether, we have 291. Taking away the rotten ones, we have 92.
Amoura shook her head.
Fuck me. That's okay, we can work with that.
Raven looked concerned. Seriously? We can manage with just 92 potatoes? Amoura nodded, looking hopeful.
I believe we can. We still have other foods, like the apples and pears I managed to get. We can get by with what we have.
Raven nodded, hoping Amoura was right. Yeah, we have loads of them left. We just have to store them.
Amoura went over to the drawers, opening one, and started looking through the eggs, counting them. Raven started washing the potatoes and placing them in the now one drawer because they were a little low. Amoura explained,
I've sorted through the berries, grapes, apples, pears, and now I've finished the eggs.
Raven nodded. What else is there to do?
Just the carrots and leeks. We also have to do the meat.
They sorted through them. Amoura pulled one of the drawers out.
I don't think we need to check the meat because it's still wrapped up and cold, so it should be fine.
Raven nodded. Yeah, we better hope so. I mean, it's a main part of meals. Magpie asked. How is the ice? Still cold, so the meat will remain good.
Raven grabbed a notepad, clicking open a pen, beginning to record all the numbers. When she was done, she said, Okay, so according to my calculations, we would just make the trip with the food we have, assuming we don't have to change directions or get sidetracked. Amoura looked slightly worried.
Yeah, but if we don't find a petrol station, the amount of food we have won't matter. Because we'll have to walk. And when that happens, we won't be able to carry all of it.
Raven looked up.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we need to go to Durham and get canned food, and then just hope and pray it will be enough. Amoura replied.
Or we could go hunting and find food along the way.
Magpie thought for a moment, looking at the map, then pointed.
If we go down by this way, it will be a little longer. However, we will run into a city and maybe get some food, if there is any left.
Amoura looked at the map.
Do you think we would be able to drive there? Or do you think we would break down before then?
Magpie thought for a moment.
Well, the tank on the Jeep isn't huge, so I don't think we will make it to the city. But keep in mind, I am no expert. We just have to drive until we stop. But you also have to consider the map's age.
Amoura frowned.
The age? What do you mean?
This map is about 30 years out of date. The world has changed. What was once the filled-in blank areas of the map are undone.
Amoura sighed.
Well, it can't have changed that much.
The world is changing all the time. We need to be prepared.
Amoura and Raven put the drawers back into place. They were all a little more concerned about the situation than before, because their supply count was a lot lower than they had hoped. Amoura, Raven, and Magpie all sat around the table and started planning how to start traveling. They were marking areas on a large map of where to go and where not to go. The issue was Amoura hadn't been any further than the city of Durham and 2 hours away from the cabin, so she knew nothing. Raven had traveled the world however she was young with her family, and on the run, so couldn't really remember where she went because they were trying to stay hidden, and Magpie had basically been everywhere. However, she couldn't entirely remember everything about the planet, so they were all just as useless and unprepared as each other. Even Handles wasn't able to help a lot. She used to have a satellite scanning the planet, however, at the start of the fall it was taken down, so she did have a map of the world. But it was 30 years out of date, and the world had changed a lot since the fall. They were all as blind as each other. With the help of the calculations of Handles, they were able to mark where to go and where to stay away from, but with the constantly moving yellow zones, it wasn't easy. They also had to plan out how much time it would take. The Jeep would only take them so far, then they would have to plan around. The weather, exhaustion, danger, all of which would slow them down. It took them such a long time to finish. The blizzard outside had finally stopped, which was good, because Magpie suddenly looked up. looking a little scared as Amoura, having not noticed this, said,
It's annoying we can't just go in a straight line. The Romans knew how to go from one place before she could finish her sentence.
Magpie said,
Shut up.
What, you don't like Romans now?
No, shut up and listen, she said, putting her hand up to silence Amoura. They all listened and could hear distant howling sounds echoing over to them, which of course meant wolves.
End of episode 1, part 2.